today at Futurecom 2011, Emilia Ribeiro, a consultant from At&t, said the government will start some project to develop infrastructure sector. And now I talk to Hal Hess, President for Latin America region for American Tower. Could you compare Latin America market from U.S. market in terms of infrastructure and tower market?
Sure. I think the biggest difference is the fact that of the large four national carriers in the United States, so At&t, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint, similar to your market here with Vivo, Claro, Oi, and Telecom Italia. In the U.S., almost 80% of the networks of those four carriers is on independent infrastructure, so companies like American Tower and other third parties. In Brazil, however, these companies, most of their infrastructure is on sites that they own themselves. So the biggest difference is in the United States, which is a little bit more of a mature market. The market has evolved into more neutral hosting wireless infrastructure so that the carriers actually own very little of their infrastructure and they choose to use infrastructure owned by third parties. In Brazil, that trend, although beginning, hasn't really taken off to that extent.
And we have another challenge here in Brazil that carriers are developing and they have to increase their coverture. There is a discussion that in rural area, countrysides, this alternative to outsource their towers would be great. But do they do that?
Well, of course, it makes a lot more sense in a smaller town where you don't have as many customers, so to have one system that is shared by all of the operators. In the United States, we have similar initiatives in the rural areas where it doesn't make economic sense for each carrier to build out their own system. I think what they're doing here makes a lot of sense as a complement to what's going on in the urban areas, which is there is already adequate coverage, but what you don't have is adequate capacity for all of the data services that are now starting to be used. And so at the same time in Sao Paulo, you need more sites to provide enough capacity for data, for video, and for all of the data services that people are using on smartphones like the iPhones. But in the rural areas, you also need coverage so that the basic services can reach those people, and infrastructure sharing works in both of those capacities. I think for the future, we look to continue to expand. Of course, Brazil is a very important market in Latin America. It's the largest and the fastest growing. Trying to double our size here in the next 3 to 5 years is one of our primary strategic goals.
Thank you a lot for this interview.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
I'm Roberta Prescott at Futurecom 2011.